Hey everyone, in this Affinity Publisher tutorial, I'm going to walk you through creating a reusable mini calendar spread quickly and efficiently with very little manual keying and no data merge. They can be saved to your assets to be printed or pulled into digital planners either as a single month or as a full year spread. I'm going to be working in the desktop version of Publisher 2. However, if you know where the corresponding tools are located, you should be able to follow along on the iPad version as well. So let's head in and get started. I'm going to create a letter size canvas at 8.5 by 11 inches in portrait orientation. You can set your canvas up to whatever size works best for you. I'm creating mine at 300 DPI just in case I want to print it, but when I use it digitally, I can always export it at a lower DPI. I do want to create a master page, but I don't need facing pages, so I'm going to make sure that's unchecked. And I want to create margins that are 1/4 of an inch all the way around the canvas. I want to create a reusable calendar that I can format and add to my assets so that I can drag it in whenever I need it to create a single month for a daily page like this, or turn it into a yearly spread like this one. I'm going to use text frames and tables and create everything on a master page. When I'm done creating the initial calendar, I'm going to show you how easy it is to create multiple variations of the same calendar with different font pairings, and master pages are going to be a very big part of that. I'm back in my new canvas and I want to make sure that I'm in my master page by double clicking. And once I do, you'll see a gray line around the edge of it. That's going to tell you which one is active. I'm going to start with the tables for my days of the week and the body of the calendar. I could create everything within one table, but I prefer to create one for the days of the week and one for the body. I just find it's a bit more flexible. I'll go ahead and grab my table tool, and holding my shift key down, I'm going to start by dragging out a single square cell. Now I know that I want my final calendar to be 2.5 inches wide. So I'm going to go to my transform panel, and under width, I'm going to key in 2.5, which is the width that I want, divided by 7, which is going to be the number of days or the number of columns that I'm going to have. That's going to give me a width of 0.357. Now, this is for the days of the week, so I don't need more rows. However, I do need 7 columns for all of the days. Going to grab my move tool and just command click and drag to create the other table for the body of the calendar. Now I have enough columns, but I need more rows. So I'm going to double click to engage the table tool. And this time I'm going to drag down, and I'm going to drag 5 rows total. In 2025, there are 3 months that are actually going to need 6 rows. But I'd rather add the 6th row just to those months rather than add it to all 12 and have to remove it from most of them. One final thing I want to create is the frame for my month. So I'm going to go to my frame text tool. I'll drag out a frame that's the width of 2.5. And I only need this to be about 0.3. So I'm going to go to my transform panel, turn off the aspect ratio because I want to maintain the 2.5 inches width. And I'll just change this to 0.3. And one other thing I want to do to this is add a slight stroke around it. If I deselect this, you can see it disappears. There's nothing on it. So just until I have all of my months in place, I'm going to go to text frame. You can also engage it by going here or go up to the menu at the top and choose window, text, and text frame. And I'll just click here. 0.2 points is just fine. I don't need anything more than that. Again, this is just temporary. Now that I have everything in place, I want to format my calendar so that I can set it up to automatically create my calendar grids. I'm going to use a combination of character and paragraph styles. Ultimately, the paragraph styles that I set up for the body of the calendar are going to do the heavy lifting to add all of the numbers. I'm not going to have to manually key them in. It's going to take a little bit of setup up front, but I only have to do it one time, and it's going to make it really easy on the other end. The first thing I'll do is I'm going to drag out my text styles panel just so you can see what I'm doing. If you don't see it here in your tools, just go up to the top to window, again down to text, and just choose text styles. Now this has a number of default styles in it, and I'm not going to be using any of them. I'm actually creating my own. So I just want to clean this up. I don't need it. I'm going to go up to the burger menu at the top, and I'll choose detach and delete all styles. I do want to note styles are document specific, not application specific. So if you delete them here, it's only within this document. It's going to show up in any new canvases you create. So don't worry about deleting anything that you might need in the future. That's going to leave me with these two no styles, which are going to allow me to take an object back to their default if necessary. All right, I'm going to start with my text frame for my month. I'm actually going to use the same format for my month as I am going to for the year that I'll create. So I'm going to click inside the text frame, and the first thing you'll see is that my cursor is blinking up here in the top left. So I want to center that up. I'll go up to the contextual menu at the top and I'm going to center align, and then I'll vertically align it to the center as well. Now, I actually want to see what I'm doing here, so I'm just going to type out a month. I'm actually not going to manually type all of my months when we get to that point. I'm going to show you how to do that with TextFlow. But again, just so I can see what I'm doing, I'll just put this in place for now, and I'm going to select it. Now, I can either go down here to the bottom and choose the create character style icon, but I'm going to go up to the top and then set my style. So I'll go to my font first, and I know that I want to use Fresh Mango. That is a font that can be found on Creative Fabrica, and I'll link it in the description below. And I'm going to change the font size to 20. I'll go to here where you see the character style, click on the drop down and choose new style. I just want to name this month and year and click OK. And what you'll see here in the text styles is it adds that new text style I created. And because I have show samples on in the burger menu at the top, it's also going to show me a sample of the font itself. All right, I'm going to create a separate one for my days of the week. I could use the same one because in this case I am actually going to use the same font, but later in the tutorial I'm going to show you how you can quickly change your fonts, and in that case I am going to use two different ones. So I always set up two different character styles, one for the month and one for the days. This is one of the very few things in this tutorial you're going to have to type out yourself. So I'm going to start with a Sunday start. You could start with a Monday start or do both if you want, but for the purposes of this tutorial I'll just stick with Sunday. And I'll just type those days out. Again, I need to center these up, so I'm going to select the entire thing, go to my contextual menu, center align, and then vertically align to the center as well. Again, I want to change the font to that Fresh Mango. And in this case, I think I'm going to choose 15 points. Maybe 16 as my size. It's going to end up being the same size as the body of the calendar, but because it's going to be bold versus a thinner one, I'm not worried about that. Once again, I want to set that character style, so I'll choose New Style, and I'm going to name this Days of the Week, and click OK. All right, so I have the month and I have the days of the week in place. Now all I need to do is format the calendar body. Now in this case, I'm actually going to use a paragraph style because I want to use bullets and numbering, and that's not in the character styles. I'm actually going to apply two paragraph styles that match with the exception of a few key differences that are going to allow me to apply both to one table. What I'm going to do is take advantage of Publisher's multi-list function so that I can create the leading dates from the prior month as well as the upcoming month, and have them treated separately from the main calendar, all with a single click. Let me show you what would happen if I don't do that. So I have this basic grid here. I'm just going to move this guy out of the way. Now, if this were January 2025, for example, I know that that starts on Wednesday and it ends on Friday. So let's say that I know I'm not going to need these three. They're actually going to be December 29th, 30th, and 31st. Well, I can use my paragraph styles under bullets and numbering. Let me just drag this out real quick. And if I change my start numbering at to 29, again, because it's the 29th, 30th, and 31st, watch what happens. Because everything is on the same level, you can see level 1, it's treating everything within the table exactly the same, even though these are the only things that are selected. What I want to do is tell Publisher that within this selection, I want to treat them completely separate from the rest. So to do that, I'm going to change this to level 2 and watch what happens. It automatically adjusts anything that's not selected to start with 1 and go through 32 in this case, but it's kept 29, 30, and 31. We want to use that principle to create our calendar. Let's go ahead and put it in practice because it's going to make a lot more sense as we start to build the calendar. I'm going to start by creating my level 1 paragraph style. So that's going to be the main calendar, in this case, the 1st through the 31st. My level 2 style is going to be based on that. So the very first thing that I want to do is select my entire table. I want to see what I'm doing. In this case, I'll go to the bottom here and I'm going to click on Create Paragraph Style, and it's going to bring up this dialog box. I'm going to change this to Body of Calendar Level 1. And the very first thing I want to do is go to bullets and numbering. I want to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to add my bullets and numbering so that I can change the font and the alignment and see exactly what's happening. Under type, I'm going to change this to 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll see there's a period after that. That's coming from this formatting right here. I'm just going to click to the right and delete everything up to that pound sign. So that leaves just the number. Now, one other thing that I want to do that's really important in here is change my alignment to center. It's not actually visually going to do anything right now, but that's setting us up for the next few steps that we're going to take in the rest of this. The next thing I want to do is change my font. I want to make sure that's in place so that when I center everything up, I'm centering it up with the way it's going to be set up in the final calendar. So I'll go up to font, and in this case, I'm going to choose Poppins. This is a Google font that I'll include the link up for below in the description. And I think I'm going to choose light and set my font size to 16. Now I can't vertically center this up using this while I have this open, but I can center this up from left to right horizontally. If you look, you'll see all my numbers right now are in the top left corner of my cells, and I actually want them in the center. When I'm able to center vertically, it'll fix part of that. But what I want to do is go to spacing under paragraph, and I want to change my left indent to start pushing all of this over. What I want to end up with is to have everything centered under the letters for the days of the week. Not only that, but I want my single digits to be centered over the top of my double digits. Now that's why it was important to change the alignment under bullets and numbering to center. If I hadn't done that, this next step wouldn't work. I want to go to left indent and use the upward caret to start clicking, and it's not going to do anything at first, but you'll start to see things move there. And then gradually everything starts moving. So I'll just click that until I start seeing everything aligned again under my letters and then over the top of one another. In this case, I'll get to 0.16. I think 0.17 is going to be a bit too far. I can always adjust that if I need to, for example, if I change the font, but for right now, this looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Okay, so now I have Body of Calendar Level 1 in place, and I'm going to use that and create a duplicate of that to create the one for Level 2 that's going to allow me to quickly create the leading and trailing dates at the beginning and end of my calendar. Under the burger menu for Body of Calendar Level 1, I want to click that and choose Duplicate Body of Calendar Level 1, and I'll just change this to Level 2. I also want to change my text fill while I'm here. I want this to take any of those dates and automatically turn them to 70% gray. You can change it to whatever color you'd like. I just find this works best. The next thing I want to do is go right down to my bullets and numbering. You can see the bullets and numbering are still in place, but what I need to do is change everything to Level 2. Now you can see it changed the color here, but don't worry about that. That's not permanent. Under Level 2, I'm just going to click once to Level 2 and then click OK. That's all I need to do. So now I have Level 1 and Level 2. And then finally what I want to do is just select everything and center vertically. And I'm all set. Okay, first things first, I'm going to get rid of this January. I'm actually going to add it using text flow. I'm not going to manually key all of my months. I'm going to show you a really quick way that you can add them using a spreadsheet. I also want to get rid of the strokes around my days of the week. The reason I'm doing this now is because you can't select multiple tables and format the tables themselves all at once. If I didn't do it now, I'd have to go one by one through all of the tables for the days of the week and remove them. So I'll just do it right now. Eventually, I'm going to do it for the body of the calendar as well, but I'm going to do that as I go through. So I have this selected. I'm going to go up to the top here. I could also go to my table panel if I wanted, and it's right here under stroke and fill. I'm going to change the stroke type to all, and you'll see all of them light up in blue. I'll click here and just turn that off. And now all of the strokes around my table are gone. This is actually all set. I'm just going to maybe move this up a little bit just to pop it up right below the letters. And I think I'm going to bring this down to right about there. So now all I need to do is select all three, Command G, and group them up. But before I put them in my assets, a really important step is I want to name all of these layers. So under frame text, I'm just going to name this month. For this table, I'm going to name this body of calendar. And then finally, I want to name this one days of the week. It's really important that you do this because we're going to be using the select same function. And the only way that you can select things like the text frame is to have it named the same. Now, in this case, I actually already have this particular one, this combination in my assets. All I did was just drag it in and I renamed it Fresh Mango and Poppins. And then all I need to do later is just pull it in, adjust it, and I'm all set. Now that I have that in my assets, I have this all built. I want to build out my yearly calendar. I've temporarily docked the textiles because I don't need them right now. But what I want to do is create a frame for my year before I start anything else. I'll just drag out a text frame. And I want this to read 2025. Now, right now, it has days of the week applied to it. So I'm going to change that to month and year. And I think I'll bring the size up to 30 and then just center this up. For the calendar here, I want to bring this up to about 1/4 of an inch, maybe below the year. And before I move on, I actually want to remove the text frame from that. I don't need it anymore. So I've selected the year. I'll click on the stroke and just turn it off. Eventually, I'll turn the ones off for the month as well. All right, I'm not going to manually duplicate these and spread them across and down. I'm going to use the Move Duplicate dialog box that's built into the desktop version. For those of you who are on the iPad version, you can use Power Duplicate and the Transform panel. With this selected, the entire group, I'm going to hit Enter. Now I know that my width is 2.5 inches, which means that I should be able to duplicate this 3 times and create about 1/4 inch gutter between each one. I'm going to do that by either keying in 2.5 plus 0.25, or in this case, because I can easily add it in my head, on the horizontal, I'm going to key in 2.75. I'll hit Tab, and that's automatically going to move it the exact width of my calendar plus 0.25. I'll click on Duplicate, and in this case, I need 2 copies so that I have a total of 3. So that's my first row, and now I want to duplicate this on the vertical. I'll select all 3 and hit Enter. And in my vertical, this time I am going to use the addition function. So I'm going to key in 2.443 plus 0.25. That's automatically going to add it to give me 2.63 and move it where I need it. I'll hit Duplicate, and I need 3 copies for a total of 12 across the whole page. Now I know that's gone outside of my canvas, and that's okay. I'm just going to click and drag to select all of my calendars. I don't want to select my year. And I'll use this outer handle here just to drag this up. And then I'm going to center the entire thing. Now I'm leaving space on either side so that just in case this does get printed and someone might want to use a hole punch on either side, I have my 1/2 inch gutter and about 1/2 inch space between the last calendar on either side. All right, so all of the calendars are in place, and there's a lot of info here, but much of this detail is coming from the strokes around the boxes. So let's complete the calendars so that we can get rid of them, and we're going to start with the months. Now, if you wanted, you can manually type out each month in each of these text frames, but I want to show you a way that you can do this in less than a few minutes using a spreadsheet app and the text flow feature in Publisher. I'm going to be using Google Sheets just because it's free and accessible to both Mac and PC users, but you could also use Excel, LibreOffice, or Numbers. The latter two are both free, though Numbers is only available on the Mac or the iPad. What we want to do is take advantage of the autocomplete feature that's built into all of those spreadsheet apps. So I'm here in Google Sheets, and what I want to do is start by typing out January. This is one of the few things that you're going to have to manually type. The way that autocomplete works is by creating a pattern, and in some cases that pattern is already created just by one cell being filled out. What this is telling Google Sheets is that when I use autocomplete, I want it to create the months of the year. So I have this little circle here. I'm going to hover over it and start dragging down, and you'll see a dotted line. And when I drag down to 12, it automatically creates all 12 months. Now for Google Sheets, I can copy and paste this right into Publisher. If you're in Numbers, LibreOffice, and I believe Excel also, you're going to need to take your months, copy them, and then turn them into a text format, either in the spreadsheet program or by pasting them into notes or something else. Otherwise, Publisher is not going to recognize the data as text in text frames. But here in Google Sheets, I can just Command C, and I'll go right back in to Publisher. I can double click into that first text box and just Command V to paste. And this is another difference between Google Sheets and the other spreadsheet apps. For the others, you actually need to go up to the top and choose Edit and Paste without format. For Google Sheets, you can just automatically paste it using Command V. It looks like it only pasted January. But you'll also notice this little eyeball here. And what that means is there's text overflowing the text frame. If I turn that eyeball on, you can see all of my months are in this one box. What I need to do is manually flow them into the rest of the boxes. So I'm going to turn that eyeball off. If I zoom in closer, you're going to see a little arrow right next to the eyeball. I'm going to click that until that box turns blue. And then by holding down Command and clicking into each box in the order that I want to add them, I'm automatically adding them to all 12 text streams. Now, because I was explaining this as I went, it seemed like it took a lot longer than it did, but in reality, it takes less than a minute to create the autocomplete in the spreadsheet and then flow the text into the months for each box. It saves a lot of time in the long run. Now that these are in place, I actually want to get rid of the text frame. So I'm going to go to my Move tool and my layers, and this is where naming your months is really important. If I select these, if I hadn't named these, I'd have to manually select the rest. But in this case, all I need to do is select one of them, go up to the top, select same, and then name. And it's selected everything named month in my calendar. Now I can go to text frame and go to frame stroke and just turn it off. So for text frames, you can select multiple frames and format them all at once. You just can't do that with tables. All right, so my months by days of the week and my year are all in place. And now all I have to do is adjust the months themselves. The first thing I want to do is take a look at a calendar for 2025. In this case, January 2025 starts on a Wednesday and it ends on a Friday, and it takes 5 rows to create the calendar. So I'm going to go back to Publisher, and in this first month, what I want to do is select the days that I don't need for the main part of the calendar. So in other words, because January starts on this Wednesday, I'm going to select these 3. So I'm just clicking and dragging to select. And I'm going to Command click to select this last day. I'll go right to my text styles, and I'm just going to click on Body of Calendar Level 2. What that's telling Publisher is that for those that I have selected, I want you to treat these differently than the ones that were already in place. So Level 1 paragraph style is applied to everything showing 1 through 31 here, and Level 2 is applied to these. So it's changed their color to light gray. This one's actually correct. It's showing February 1st. So I'm going to command click to deselect it. Now, all I need to do is change the first number of this series. I'm going to drag my paragraph panel out. And again, if yours isn't open, just go up to window, text, and then open up your paragraph panel. I'm going to go right down to bullets and numbering down in here at the bottom. And I want to change start numbering at 29 because it's going to be December 29th, 30th, and 31st. All right, so my calendar's set. The only thing I want to do is while I'm in here, I want to remove the stroke. So I'm going to Command A until my entire table's selected. I'll go up to the top, and again, I'm going to choose all, just like I did with the days of the week. I'll go into the stroke here and just turn it off. And January is all set, so I can move on to February. Okay, so February starts on this Saturday here. So I'm going to select all of these. There's 28 days in the month, so it ends on this Friday. I'm going to Command click to select that last one. Again, I'll go right to my textiles, and right now it has level 1 applied to this selection, so I want to change that to level 2. It's adjusted this last one to the 1st. So now all I need to do is change the leading days for this one. And my leading day is going to be the 26th. So I'll go right down to start numbering at, change that to 26. And February is all set. I just need to turn off my stroke. So I'm going to Command A to select the entire thing, select all, and then turn off my stroke. March is one of those months in 2025 that need a 6th row because it starts very late in the week here on the 1st row, and it has 31 days, so it ends on this Monday in the 6th row. I'm going to click to engage the table tool and just drag out my 6th row. Now you can see it's bumping into June, but I'll fix that at the end. I know that it starts on a Saturday based on this calendar, so I'm going to select Sunday through Friday because I want those to be my leading dates. And then I'm going to Command click and drag anything after Monday on that 6th row and apply level 2 to that. So it's adjusted level 1 to the 1st through the 31st. These are all set because I have the 1st through the 5th of April. I just need to change the leading date on this, which will be the 23rd. So I'll go down to start numbering at 23. Now I'm going to turn off my stroke, so I'm going to Command A to select the entire thing, change that to all, and then turn off my style, or turn off my stroke. And then while I have this selected, I'll just click to select it. I'm going to zoom in, and you'll see a handle here, this little circle. I'm going to hover over until I get an up and down arrow, and just drag this up until it's in line with the other table. Now, optically, it doesn't look very different. The only difference between this, the font size is exactly the same. The difference comes in between the verticals here, so there's less spacing between the 2 and the 9 here than there is here. You could play around and adjust this, but at a distance without those strokes in place, optically it looks just fine. It looks far better than having 3 months out of the year bump into the one below it. So I'm going to leave that alone and move on to April. Okay, April only needs 5 rows. It starts on a Tuesday, so I'm going to select Sunday and Monday. And it ends on a Wednesday, so I'm going to Command, click, and drag everything after that Wednesday. And I'll change this to level 2. So just to check, I have the 1st through the 30th. I have the first 3 days of May. And now I just need to change these leading numbers to start with 30. I'll select my entire table, all parts of that table, and then turn off the stroke. And April's all set. Now May is actually really easy. It starts on a Thursday, so I'm going to select everything Sunday through Wednesday, and it has 31 days, which means it actually ends on this Saturday. So all I need to do is change these first 4. There's not going to be any trailing numbers here. So with those 4 selected, I'll click on level 2. So I have the 1st through the 31st. Now all I need to do is change these so they start on the 27th, which you can see here. So I'll start number at 27, select my entire table, select all parts of that table, and then turn the stroke off. June starts on this Sunday because May ends on the 31st. So I need everything after the 30th because June has 30 days in it. So all I'm going to format are these 5 dates. I'll go ahead and click on level 2. I don't need to change the starting number because it's correct. It started on 1. So I'm going to command click to select the entire table, choose all, and then turn off my stroke. And June is done. I'm going to do July and August, and then I'll speed up the rest. So July again starts on Tuesday. I'll select these 2 dates. It ends on Thursday in the 5th row. So I'm going to command click and drag to select those. Change that to level 2. I always check to make sure it shows the right number here. So it's the 1st through the 31st. These are correct. I just need to change the leading day to the 29th. I'll select the entire table, select all parts of that table, and then turn off my stroke. Now, August is another one like March that needs 6 rows. So I'm going to drag down to add a 6th row. It starts on a Friday. So I'm going to select everything from Sunday through Thursday. And it's going to end on this Sunday in the 6th row. So I'll click to drag everything here and change that to level 2. These are all set, so I'll deselect them. I need to change the leading date on this to the 27th. So I'll go to start number at, change it to 27. I can turn off all of my strokes. And then just drag this up to match the rest of the calendars. All right, I'm going to do September through December sped up. November is going to be another one of those months like March and August where I'm going to need to add another row, and you'll see me do that. But I'll go ahead and complete this, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, so my entire year is in place. All of my months are formatted. I could change things around if I wanted to. Maybe I want to see what it would look like if my months were actually set to a different font size. So I'm going to select 1 and then select same name. Let's see what this looks like when they're at 20. I actually like that. I think what I want to do though is move these up a little bit. So with them selected, I'm just going to use the arrow up key and just pull them away from the days of the month, days of the week a little bit more. There's a little bit too much bold right there. I think everything looks good, but what if I wanted to take this and create the same calendar, but with a different font combination? Well, it's really simple. That's where Master Pages comes in. I'm going to take this master page and just duplicate it. All I need to do is adjust the fonts for everything within the calendar very quickly with a few clicks, and it's not going to impact what's already in place. I'm going to double click to make sure that I'm in that master page. I'm also going to add the second page here. So I'm just going down to pages and clicking this icon plus. I want to add a page after page 1, and I want to apply that second master to it. Right now it looks exactly the same because I haven't changed anything here yet, but once I do, it's going to automatically apply to this one. So again, I want to make sure that I'm in the master page here. I'm just going to double click so I have that gray line around that second one. Now all I need to do is select each of the components and change the font. So I'm going to start with the year. I'll click to select it, and I'm going to use a font called Butterfly Wildflower. And I'm going to use the bold version. This is another fun one that's on Creative Fabrica, and I'll link it below. And I just want to make sure that I have this centered up. It actually looks, let's see, let me just double click this frame text just to bring it in, and I'll just pop that into place. I think I'll make it a little bit bigger too. That's too big. All right, center that up. I'll go into my layers here, and I'm going to select one of my months. I'll go up to select same name, And I'm going to use that same Butterfly Wildflower, but I'm going to choose the script font. And I want to make it a little bit bigger. Let's see what 24 looks like. All right, that looks good. Now this is where it comes in handy to have your days of the week set separately from your months. I'm going to use this same font for this as I did the year. I don't want to use a script font for single letters. So I'm going to select days of the week, select same name. And again, I'm going to use the Butterfly Wildflower and change it to bold. And then all I need to do is change the body of the calendar. So I'll click on body of calendar, select same name. And again, I'm going to choose that butterfly, but I'm going to choose the thin one. And I think the size of all my fonts looks good, so I'm not going to touch those. But you can see I have two separate calendars with two separate font variations. I didn't have to start all over again, and because I named my layers, it was really easy to change them. So I was able to create two calendars within one canvas very quickly. One final thing I want to show you is what you can do to change the size of a calendar within the same. So let's say I want to create a smaller version of this one. I'm going to select the page in this case, not the master. I don't need to do this on a master because I'm not changing the actual formatting. I'm just changing the size. I'll go ahead and duplicate that page, and I'm going to right click on that duplicate and go to spread properties. The first thing that's going to pop up is you'll see dimensions. Now I have a preset built into here that's half letter, which is half the size of the current one. And I'll click OK. And you can see that's going to force everything outside the canvas because the actual calendars don't resize just the canvas. But I can fix that very easily. I'm going to go to my layers and I need to detach this from the master because remember, I'm working in a page. I'm not working in the master copies, and these are what control the background. If I were just to click on this now, I'll get these X's over the top. So what I need to do is go to the master level, the parent level, right click, and edit detached. I'll get this little dialog along the top. And then all I need to do is select everything inside of it. And I'm just going to scale it down until it's inside the margins. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time formatting this one because you kind of get the point. I'll just drag this out maybe. Move it up. I could make these smaller if I wanted more space for, say, hole punching. But I'm going to call this one done because it's really just about how to change the size. Once I'm done, I'm just going to click finish, and then everything's locked again. So I was able to get two different sizes of the same exact calendar simply by duplicating this one and changing the properties of the spread. Once I'm ready to export my calendars, I can export all of them if I want. I can go up to File and choose Export, and under the area, I can either choose all pages, the current page that I have selected, or I can put in a range of pages. So I would just choose all pages and key in which ones I want to export. And then I can choose the file format and export as normal. So what are you creating in Affinity Publisher right now? I'd love to hear about it, so let me know in the comments below. Also, I'd love to hear what you'd like to learn more about, either in the desktop or iPad version of the app. If you enjoyed my teaching style, consider checking out my full-length classes either on Skillshare or my own learning site, The Creator Collage. I've linked to both below. Now, I have lots more Publisher tutorials in store for the channel. In the meantime, if you'd like to learn more about the Affinity Suite, you might want to check out one of these two next. Thanks for watching.